This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All right. How you feeling, baby? You feeling good?
I'm doing great, except for some reason my computer sound is wacky. But no, I'm doing great.
Okay. So what'd you think of, I mean, we're not going to go crazy on the undrafted free agents. We'll start to see them practice, and then that's when we'll say, hey, that guy's kind of interesting, that kind of stuff. But, a lot of names. Anything stood out to you?
Yeah, there are two of them. Well, the three of them. Sorry?
I know it's kind of unfair because they're so.
No, there are three of them that caught my attention for different reasons. Number one was Aubrey Miller from Jackson State. Based on his resume, Dolphins do have an awful lot of edge players. And that's the other thing I do when I look at UDFAs is like, okay, where's there a realistic possibility of sneaking onto the roster? And then there's the kid from USC, Brandon Peely, I would assume that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Dolphins have a need for depth on that defensive line. So if he shows something more so in training camp than he would in the OTAs, and the OTAs is about, how well are you absorbing the scheme and, how well do you do on your assignments? He's another one that intrigues me. And then because of the name Michael Turk, the punter from Oklahoma, is interesting. The nephew of long ago Dolphin punter Matt Turk.
When I was on the beat. Wow.
Yep. Long time ago. But the thing is, Dolphins just signed a punter in free agency, gave him some guaranteed money, not a ton. So if Michael Turk blows away Jake Bailey in training camp, he could steal that job. But obviously the incumbent has a major advantage there. Those are the three names that kind of jumped out at me.
Okay. All right. Because I'm just wondering, looking at these names, and again, we'll find out once they take the field. When's the first minicamp? Is it this weekend already?
No, I believe it's next weekend.
Teams
have the option of doing it the weekend after the draft or 2 weekends after the draft, and I think the Dolphins are taking option B.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. I will. What day is next? Is it like during the weekend next weekend? Is that what it is?
It's the weekend. It's the weekend, and it's not like, unless I'm mistaken, going back from previous years, it's not like we get a full viewing of the practice. So.
Is this one of those where we just get to see him stretch and then they kick us out?
I believe so. Yes.
Oh, that sucks. I'm not going then. If I don't get to watch practice, I'm not going to go. To go check out who's there stretching, it's not that's not a lot of fun for me.
That's for the hardcore beat guys.
Yeah, the hardcore beat guys like you will definitely be there overall. So I would imagine you gave the Dolphins an A+ for their draft.
A++. A+,
right? I mean, Brad Chubb, Cam Smith, Jalen Ramsey, Devin Achane, Tyreek Hill, Jeff Wilson Jr., Elijah Higgins, Ryan Hayes. That's some good usage of your picks.
When you throw in the three vets, absolutely. The one caveat though, it's if you throw in the three vets, then you got to throw in the financial consideration. So it's a good draft. It's also a very expensive draft.
I know, but shit, bro. Jalen Ramsey for your 3rd round pick?
No, dude, you haven't heard me complain about that, have you?
No, you can't. I mean, you'd be an idiot to complain about the production out of that draft, man. I mean, that's overall. And I'm excited for Chubb because hopefully with Fangio, you get him on track and you get the production that you traded for. Mm-hmm. Because last year, obviously, he was a disappointment. And I know he talked about trying to justify and force things, and it just didn't work for him, and he was trying to kind of get his groove. And I think he said I'm paraphrasing, that he kind of started to feel comfortable towards the end of the season or something like that, I think.
Well, he also got dinged. I mean, let's be fair to the guy. He had an ankle issue, and then he had. I mean, if I remember correctly, he was playing with a cast at one point. So
he was in the club. Yeah, he was in the club. He was 50 Cent.
So no, I'm not. We're going to be honest. he did not have a great stint with the Dolphins last year. Should not have made the Pro Bowl, but let's not pretend like the circumstances were favorable for him.
Right. No, definitely. He didn't justify the trade, so now he's got to justify it this year, overall. What else have you been able to unearth after we spoke on Saturday about this draft?
Nothing that didn't really stand out before. I mean, I think you and I both talked that Chris Greer is very collaborative with his coaches. Mike McDaniel wanted the speed with a chain, and Vic Fangio wanted another piece for the secondary, and they got Cam Smith, and they can do a lot of different things. And that brought me to ask, and I checked on this. Jalen Ramsey was used in a lot of different ways with the Rams the last couple of years. I mean, everywhere. Which is what prompted me to ask Mike McDaniel if there had been any conversations about maybe using him at safety. And Mike McDaniel kind of looked at me like I had three eyes or something, or I was asking him a hockey question or something. But it's there. I mean, it's not like I didn't make it up. I mean, he literally played joker, even he lined up at linebacker at some point, even like outside in the slot. So I think they have the ability to do a lot of different things.
I can see if a tight end is giving them trouble, they move them in. Absolutely. And by the way, that's probably why they also got Cam Smith. Because
without question.
I would imagine Fangio said, yeah, I like the Kohu kid. Okay, it's cool. Yeah, Nick Needham's got some potential. Hopefully he comes back from the injury. Yeah, the True Williams kid's got to – but that's not the outside guy I need. We need another outside guy just in case so I can move Ramsey inside and put Cam Smith on the outside. And we can also plan, because I'm sure that's also where Chris and Fangio have this discussion. All right, coach, listen, next year we get into these cap issues and we're probably going to have to part ways with X. So that's something that we have to look forward to. So then, okay, let's plan. Let's get a guy that I can use this year, get him ready. And then next year, if we do part ways with X, I can move him to the outside. So these are things that you have to talk about behind the scenes. And I think that's what the Cam Smith thing is. It's a guy that can help you and keep you flexible this year. And then it's a guy that if you do part ways with X next year, then he's the guy that can slide out and take over. That's what I think is happening.
No question. And I also think, I don't think there's any chance in hell that they drafted him without a plan, not only beyond this year, but also for 2023 of this is what we can do with him. Okay. And then we can move, we can have him on the outside, move Jalen to the slot, move Jalen to cover a tight end, whatever. I mean, all sorts of permutation. And the more quality cover guys he has in the back end, the better off. I mean, if we want to get crazy with ideas here, think of if Cam Smith pans out and is as good a cover guy as we hope he is, and you can have Cam Smith and Xavier Howard outside, and you can line up Holland and Ramsey
inside
safety with four guys.
Who was your nickel?
And then when you go to five, you can have Kohu or whoever else emerges. So that's pretty.
Well, yeah. If Needham comes back strong and can beat him out, right now I would imagine Kohu's got the inside track. But if let's just say it's Kohu out there, I'm feeling pretty good about that secondary, bro. That's the kind of secondary that's going to allow you to get sacks. That's what's going to.
And I'll be honest with you, and maybe I'm overblowing this for some reason, but I am very intrigued to see what Trill Williams can show.
Yeah,
he's a guy. I like the look of him last summer.
Me too. I thought he was improving. He flashed even 2 years ago.
He did.
And then last year really was showing that he was growing up and figuring things out. And then the poor kid suffers the injury. So I'm with you there. Just like, the one thing that's kind of changed with these guys is I look at this list of undrafted guys and I'm like, somebody's going to stick here. There's going to be one or two guys that are going to catch our eye because that's kind of been their MO now. It's almost like now we're almost expecting, the under the radar guy to start flashing to us in training camp. So that part's going to be fun about that.
Well, we had a little discussion in the media room on draft weekend about how many rookies can make this 53-man roster. And I think I don't remember what my number was, maybe 4 or 5. There's not that many spots, and it could be 3 of the draft picks and 2 of the UDFAs. Usually, I mean, last year was 2 who made the original 53, but then Braylon Sanders got elevated. Veron McKinley not only got elevated, he actually wound up being signed to the active roster. That's in addition to Tanner Connor and Cater, of course. So,
did they sign a contract with Oregon that they're required to draft a safety or sign a safety every year just in case? Because they signed another Oregon safety. So apparently, you know,
Bennett Williams. He didn't play with Holland though. He played with McKinley. He did not play with Holland. He came over from another program. Yeah, I believe Colorado maybe.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. That coach, that guy kicked ass for Oregon last year. He brought in the cornerback. He brought in their best pass rusher. Like most of their best players that made most of the impacts were transfers that he brought in. Actually,
good old Portal.
Yeah, he took over from Mario and then took it to another level, bro. Props to him. And yes, you're right. The safety we got is a guy that he brought in as a transfer. And so it's just funny how somehow or another they got that Northwest scout is bringing back always some stuff. Hey, I got another guy we got to look at, you know. So
yeah,
you just never know, man. That's the cool thing. All right, when you look at what's next, what is next now? What follows up now? In free agency, are we expecting the tackle? Because I'm almost expecting Fleming to be signed. I think it's Fleming over Luan, to be quite honest. Your thoughts?
Without question. A's cheaper. B actually had Luan's dealt with injuries the last few years. Fleming had a very good year, from what I'm told, out in Denver last year. Can play both sides.
And Luan's left, right? Luan's only a
Luan, I don't believe, has ever played right tackle in the NFL. I could be wrong, but I don't believe so. And I think the Dolphins already are pretty set at left tackle as far as a starter is concerned.
No, they need a swing. They need a swing.
No, I know that. I was being funny because they have Teron Armstead. No, I know that. I know that they need a swing guy, correct. And they need a dependable swing guy. And Cameron Fleming would fit the bill. Now they're very low on cap space. They get a nice chunk back on June 1st. Is there a rush to do it? Do they have a wink-wink agreement with the guy? Possibly. I'm not sure about the time. I would be inclined to think more June than it would be now. I mean, we're talking a month. Don't think necessarily anything really would change that. So I'd be inclined to think, like I said, more June right now. I think they probably hold still. They're about to. What's next? They're getting into phase 2 of the offseason program, which is a little bit more on the field work, whereas the first 2 weeks is just basically conditioning and like rehab stuff. So I wouldn't expect necessarily a whole lot of movement. They have the 5th-year option deadline coming up tomorrow. Don't think anybody realistically expects anything to get done there other than letting the deadline pass.
All right. What are you working on Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out? And when is the next go around for you and Omar on the podcast?
That's a very good question. It's to be determined. I think it's going to be early this week for the next episode of the podcast. And on alldolphins.com earlier today, I put up a story of the Dolphins have unveiled the jersey numbers for the new guys. We're going to have story examining the 5th-year option. We're going to have a draft film breakdown on the 4 draft picks from my man Dante Collinelli. Other stuff as well, looking at the team where it stands after the draft, and as an ode, tribute, homage to the Florida Panthers and the Miami Heat for the massive upsets they pulled off in the first round of the playoffs. I'm counting down the 10 biggest upsets in Dolphin history.
Okay. And I'm putting the Panthers win over the Bruins like right behind Marlins 03 and Panthers Stanley Cup. like when we talk about like, I don't know, surprise ups and Nebraska 83.
Nebraska is a good one.
Like those are like, right? Because I mean, Panthers getting to the Stanley Cup is still, my God, bro. That
and
team
third year, that was completely crazy. But if you're talking about one series for a team against a team that set the record for most wins and most points in a regular season, and the way they did it too, holy smoke! I mean, they were like
in the series. They were leading 3-2 with a minute left in the game.
Not only that, dude, go back to game 5. Brad Marchand has a breakaway in the final seconds, could have ended the series there. In game 6, Boston had the lead in the third period, not once, but twice, and the Panthers kept coming back. And then yesterday, they're leading 3-2 in the final minute before. I mean, completely insane.
How about the on TV, like at the minute 25 mark, they flash Panther goal and it goes away.
Did you see that?
Quick. And then the Panther goal comes 30 seconds later.
Yeah. Somebody was joking. See, and it's not just the NFL that's scripted. The NHL is scripted too, and they just jumped the gun.
Right, exactly. You know that if it would have been the reverse, my God, the calls today would have been, oh, it's rigged. They wanted the Panthers to lose this, that, or whatever. You know what I mean? But it's just like anything, mistakes happen and you never know. But it's funny how that thing kind of foreshadowed the Panther goal. That was
eerie.
Pretty funny.
It's eerie.
Yeah.
But that was completely amazing. I mean, it's a fun run we're having with the two teams here.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, no. Listen, the Heat, to their credit, it was awesome. But obviously, Giannis out for the first 2 games opened up the door for you to, do your thing. And then after you took care of business, because Giannis came back and you beat him straight, beat him twice. But for this series, and I know Boston had a couple of injuries too, but still, they were the best team in the league by miles and miles and miles. This is the most points ever in the league, 135, 65 wins. I mean, it was sick to do what they did. I got to give them a slight edge over the Heat on this one.
No, I agree. And allow me to do this. If you recall at the time of the Tkachuk trade, I said they're going to be a much tougher out in the playoffs.
You did that. You did that because I was concerned, and you told me, no, I don't think it's that bad because it's a new system. They've been injured, and if they get healthy now and they get going, it could be a whole different ballgame. And they got healthy, actually. Then that's been a huge thing too that they got healthy. And let me tell you, all these guys stepping up around Tkachuk, Montour and Verhaeghe and these kind of cats, Bennett and all these. They've got some dogs on that team. I don't know what happened to Barkov, but they've got some dogs on that team, bro.
No, Barkov is just insanely talented, but he doesn't have the dog in him. You want to talk about dogs outside of Tkachuk, who's almost in a class by himself. Sam Bennett's a complete dog.
Bennett is, and so is Verhaeghe. Both, but
well, last year in a different way. Verhaeghe's more skilled. Bennett is he is a prototypical playoff player, the kind of guys that win Stanley Cups because of his willingness to get dirty and nasty in the playoffs.
Okay, well then with Verhaeghe, I'm going to go clutch. How about that?
Absolutely.
Okay, because last year and this year, both playoffs, Verhaeghe was the stud last year. That I was pissed because the top 2 guys weren't showing me what Verhaeghe was showing me last year. And sure enough, here he is again, which just shows you it wasn't an aberration, what you saw from Carter Verhaeghe last year. That dude is a bad mofo. And Montour, bro, he had a couple of negatives there because he had he gave them the power plays. Yeah, the penalties. Yeah. But he made up for it also with the score and the physicality too at the same time.
But if you remember the game-winning goal last night, it's Bennett who digs up the puck and gets it to Verhaeghe, and it's Tkachuk who's parked in front of the goalie and kind of screening him.
Tkachuk is just God, man. He is exactly what we needed. So let me ask you something. If you're the Panthers in the offseason, what stops you from trading Barkov for another son of a bitch?
Because those guys don't grow on trees. I mean, there are so few of those guys, which is why Calgary never trades
with SOBs is what you're saying. Just keep surrounding him with with SOBs. Okay, I got
But Calgary never, ever trades Matthew Tkachuk. If Tkachuk doesn't tell them, I don't want to play here anymore, trade me.
Okay.
He's the one who got that going. I mean, those guys are like so rare and special. Yeah.
Thank God.
Yeah.
God. Thank God. But what I love is that they've added a couple of other guys that have that it to them, and that's you need it, bro. You need it in this game in a big time way. All right, follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL, and remember, you are not a Dolphins fan officially until you bookmark alldolphins.com. Alan, we will catch up later on in the week, my friend. Thank you.
Yes, sir. You be good.
Appreciate it. There you go, Alan Poupart, baby, and our EJDconstruction.com Miami Dolphins report.
You've been listening.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.